Hi, my name is Jensen, and I am here with my third and last video sharing with you about faith. Before I get started, I want to remind you about the Deep Love Infusion Conference happening in Becker, Minnesota on November 5th. Now that's just 1 week away, but it's not too late to register. You can go to gracefortoday.xyz. It's at the bottom of my screen for more information about the conference. You'll also see my other videos there so you can get caught up. So, let's talk more about faith. In my first video, we talked about what is faith. In my second video, I talked about why faith is important and persevering through trials. In this video, I want to talk about believing and holding on to faith, even if and no matter what. Before I share a personal story, I want to go back and talk about 3 guys from the book of Daniel. Now, just a side note, I don't know if anyone has used these biblical names for their children, so if you're looking for names, you might want to consider them. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. You know the ones, right? Seriously, these are solid names. These guys rocked their faith. They had an even if, no matter what kind of faith. Now, the story is the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, don't name your children after him, he built this statue like 90 feet tall, 9 feet wide, and commanded that everyone bow down and worship this statue. If they didn't, he threatened that they would be thrown into a blazing fiery furnace. Now, these 3 guys had a choice to make. They could deny their own faith, dishonoring God, convincing themselves that it would be okay. Maybe we just go along with it this one time. God knows our hearts, right? Which, by the way, made me wonder how often we do that in our lives, compromising our faith. Maybe that movie we know we shouldn't watch, or going to that website we shouldn't go to one more time, thinking, just once, it'll be okay. God knows my heart, right? Their other choice was just to refuse, to stand firm in their faith and say no, even if it meant being thrown into the fire, even if it meant they might die. They told the king that even if they were thrown in the fire, their God was able to save them. And even if he didn't rescue them, they would never bow down and worship his gods, no matter what. Wow. What would you do? I know if I was standing in front of the blazing furnace, about to be thrown in by guards, I would be counting on God to come and rescue me right then and there. But God didn't rescue these guys. They were thrown into the fire. But God was with them the whole time, protecting them and keeping them safe even in the fire. Can you trust God no matter what the outcome might be, even if it means a sacrifice? I met a guy about 10 years ago in my church. Some friends introduced us. We dated. Everything felt right, and we just grew close quickly. It was good. 3 months into our relationship, we found out that he had cancer. He had a baseball-sized tumor in his bladder and some cancer in one of the kidneys. And he said to me, "You don't have to do this." But I never considered it that way. In fact, I told him I'd already had a conversation with God about this. And I told God that I would walk through this with him no matter what, no matter how hard it got. Even if it meant he might be sick for a short time or a long time and possibly die, and I would lose him. You see, the thing is, we believed that God brought us together. And we believed that God knew this cancer was there. We didn't see it, but God knew it was there, right? So if God brought us together and knew the cancer was there, then I'm there for a reason. So I was able to put my faith in God and trust Him with His plan, no matter what that was. Now, there were a few surgeries and an engagement and a wedding, and eventually I sold my house and we bought a place in the country. And I'll just say, you guys, I have never lived in the country, and I was a bit apprehensive, but I loved it in the country. It was peaceful, quiet. I just enjoyed everything about it. We both did. It was great. God had blessed us in so many ways. You guys, I had chickens. And my chickens did tricks for mini marshmallows, and they laid really sweet eggs because of the mini marshmallows. Okay, back on track. Anyway, I loved being in the country, and everything about our life at this point, 6 months into our marriage when we just moved into our new home and got settled, should have been awesome, right? And there were things that were good, but there was also something very off. Something was wrong. But I didn't know what it was. I could feel it. I knew it in my spirit, but couldn't figure it out. One day when I was driving to work, I kept hearing this, ask him about pornography, ask him about pornography. Now I knew where it was coming from because it wouldn't stop, and I had no reason to be thinking about it that morning. My husband did tell me when we were dating that there was some pornography in his past, but it was left in the past, it was done, and he's never going back to that. To shorten up the story, when I got home that night, I found a lot of pornography, and it shattered my world. Everything that I thought I had, or everything that I believed about our marriage, or even my future, looked different now. It was uncertain. Everything that I counted on and trusted in and hoped for and planned in my head was now uncertain. My husband thought that if he could just hide this sexual sin and keep it secret from me and everyone else, that it would be okay. Now, I had another talk with God, but I'll tell you it wasn't as pretty as the talk I had with him about the cancer. Because I was mad, you guys. I was questioning God. Lord, why would you allow this to happen? Why would you bring somebody into my life that's struggling with this? You know how I feel about it. I had to really hold on, dig down deep, and continue to have faith that no matter what happened, even if my husband continued to walk in no remorse, and there was never repentance or recovery, that God would be with me. He would protect me and keep me safe through the fire. Now, things didn't turn out as I had hoped. There were some wonderful and beautiful things about our marriage and our relationship, things that we really loved and enjoyed together, and I know we loved each other. But when you have sin and lies and deception hiding underneath your foundation, you can't have any firm or solid foundation. Nothing to grow on. And God can't bless the marriage. So I told my husband after 5 years that he needed to make some choices, and he chose divorce. Now I was grieving my marriage, the marriage that I thought I had, that I wanted, that I desired, my whole future as I saw it, my home in the country, my chickens, all of it. And just 3 months after this divorce, my dad got sick and passed away. I loved my dad so much, and we were very close. And this was tough. Now I felt like I lost everything. And there were days, you guys, that I remember laying in bed wondering if I would ever feel okay again. You see, God doesn't stop things from happening. And he doesn't always rescue us. He didn't rescue the 3 guys with the really cool names from the fire. He didn't rescue me from being hurt by betrayal and sexual addiction and divorce. But he was right there with us all along, protecting us, keeping us safe through the fires. And that's what he does. If you remember from my first video, I talked with you about the verse from Romans 8:28, where God says he will work all things together for good for those who love him. So that means all things, all these things, even the things that don't feel good in my life. God has been working them all together for good on my behalf. Now my life has been very unexpected, not as I've chosen, not as I've desired much of the time. But God has worked all of that together, and he continues to work things together on my behalf because I love him. I want to give you a testimony to that verse and to how God is too good to not believe. So after our divorce, I knew I couldn't stay in the country. It was too much for me to maintain and manage, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go, what I could afford. For about a year, I was negotiating with a neighbor who wanted to buy the property, but it never felt right, and he was never offering enough. Finally, after a year, I decided I just have to put my house on the market. I was getting frustrated. You know, Lord, why isn't this working out? Why can't we just come to an agreement? But I worked with a realtor, got my house ready, got it listed, and I will tell you, if you remember back, that was right at the time when we started with all the bidding wars on homes. Now, my neighbor offered this much. You can see my hand. My realtor said, you can sell it for this much. So I said, let's list it for this much. I was trusting God for more. Now, within a few days, I had multiple offers, and I ended up selling my house for well above what I had asked for it. God is so good, you guys. And in addition to that, during this time, I had decided I was going to build. So I was getting all of that lined up, working with a builder and contractors, getting pricing, and I wanted to wait another year, though, to build. Now, because I waited, that summer when I was going to build was the year that all of the pricing of lumber and building supplies just skyrocketed, if you remember. My contractors locked me into the price they had given me the year before. If they hadn't, my home would have cost me 25 to 30% more to build by the time it was done. I couldn't have done it. In addition to that, because of the market, when I needed to get my loan, the interest rates were at an all-time low. The year before they were high, now they're up again. But I got in at the very best time. You guys, I couldn't have planned any of that out or orchestrated that well. You see, it makes me sad that sometimes we forget and we get discouraged and impatient. But we need to remember that God is working out all things for us, and we need to trust him in that. He's too good to not believe. He had it all planned out in his timing, and he knew just what to do. Now, God also connected me very quickly with some amazing women from amazing ministries, both nationally and internationally, that I could mentor and learn under and train and take some courses and become certified, so that now I can do my own ministry work, walking alongside women who have been hurt by betrayal and sexual addiction. And I can also speak into sexual addiction and hopefully help couples who are doing that dance because they don't really understand what's going on, what's happening. And if they could just step back and learn about it, hopefully there can be healing and restoration. I want you guys to be watching for ways that God is working all things out in your life, because He is. Let those be the things that motivate you to walk in faith with even greater courage and conviction. Trust Him even if and no matter what, because He is trustworthy. Too good to not believe. I hope that these videos have inspired you and encouraged you in your own faith walk. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.